Welcome back to ModCons. Today I'm joined by Mario Creatura. ModCons is all about showcasing modern conservatism, and what better way than speaking to the future of the party. For our series Candidates Cornered, I will be speaking with Conservative parliamentary candidates. Today, one of our general election 2019 intake. Thank you so much for joining me, Mario.
Thank you very much for having me.
So Mario was a former Downing Street advisor to former Prime Minister Theresa May. He also stood as parliamentary candidate in the 2019 election and is currently still a Croydon councillor in Colston Town and has worked in comms for well over a decade. And we are delighted to have you with us today. You stood in the 2019 general election as a parliamentary candidate for Croydon Central and came very close to unseating Labour in one of their safe seats. How did it feel bagging that seat, and how was that election? I'm presuming it was very cold.
It was unbelievably cold, and there were many times in between multiple canvassing sessions where you do have to change your socks and warm the feet up and hope that no long-lasting damage is being done. But it was a wonderful campaign. It was obviously called as a snap election, so we were all very excited about the immediacy and the urgency of the campaign. I had a great team around me. I knew the patch well. It's where I had grown up. And so I knew the team, I knew the messaging, I knew the issues, and I knew the community, and it was brilliant to get on the campaign trail. It really was.
And was your opposition quaking in her boots at that count? Was it looking like it was going to be a Conservative win?
When the exit poll came out and it showed sort of the landslide for Boris Johnson, I
Mm.
did get a little bit excited initially, but no, sadly, the people of Croydon Central at the time decided to go in a different direction. But it was great to be out on the stump, and I think the I'd spent so many years knocking on doors for other candidates, supporting councillors and MPs and prospective candidates both in my home area, across the southeast, and across the country, that actually it was really nice to get out with my face on the leaflet
Yeah.
and say what I think, not what they think. And the hustings, yeah, being able to stand on a stage in front of 200 people who are there passionately thinking about the future of their community. I mean, that was a special moment, and the applause and the boos and the hisses and everything in between, with the parents in the audience as well, made it a very special election for me.
Oh, that's lovely. So you got some hisses then. We always get hissed at as Tories. It's tough for us out there. So what made you want to stand as a candidate? What made you feel like this is something I really want to do?
I got involved in the party in the run up to the 2010 general election. I'd been a recent graduate from university, and I was looking at the excitement, the energy of the Cameron campaign. I saw the country responding well to it. I saw the issues he was talking about aspiration, about public service, about responsibility to the community, about providing a structure to get the country out of the quagmire that it had found itself in under many years of Labour administration. And I thought I'm gonna get involved in that. I'm gonna help my local MP candidates, and I was gonna get involved, roll my sleeves up, and be involved in shaping the future of the community. And that's really where it started for me.
That's awesome. So you were just inspired by what he was saying and kind of the fresh approach that he was taking to politics and the party.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, my family aren't particularly political. My dad came to England from Italy when he was 16 years old, and his whole, modus operandi was to try and build a better life for himself and then eventually his family. And so I had the sort of small C conservatism baked into my DNA from a very young age. And so I had that growing up. I saw how hard he worked. My mum working multiple jobs when I was a kid, and then being the first person to go to university, I saw that if you were able to work hard with obstacles removed from your progress and from your path, that you could be able to do anything. And that's what the Conservative Party stands with me for, and that's why I believe that they're the best future to the country. And ultimately, that's why I saw David Cameron and all of his colleagues on the stump advocating that same message, and I thought I want to be a part of that. I want to help get them over the line.
Nice. And so, was there a turning point for you? Were you like, strolling through the university halls and someone grabbed you with a rosette and said, "Hey, come and join us"? What was that moment? Was it your upbringing? What was the turning point for you?
So I'm afraid that it's slightly less, I guess, movie-like than that. I had a friend who at university was running perhaps slightly arrogantly at the age of 18 to be a local council candidate.
Love it.
He thought, I'm definitely going to win, but I need help with people delivering leaflets. And at the time, I wasn't interested in politics at all, with a big P. I was writing for the student newspaper some film reviews, and I was doing some student radio DJing type extracurricular activities. It was a lot of fun, and
Digital
I thought I'm
scenario, who
interested in.
knew?
Yeah. It was a good time in my life, and but he came and said, "Look, I really need some help delivering these Conservative Party leaflets. If you do it, I'll buy you a beer." And I said yes, and that was it. The first step on the path to conservatism.
I love that. I love that. And a lot of people don't appreciate that it is quite a social thing. And that's how, a
Yeah.
lot of people get involved and stay involved. So that's really sweet.
I mean, he got me involved, and he's still active in Cambridgeshire, so he's to blame for everything that followed. But you're absolutely right. I mean, the idea that it's a it's party. It's in the title, right? It should be fun. It should be not just about a vision for the future of the country, but about enjoying making that happen. And if you don't enjoy it, then I think you can very quickly turn into a sort of a bitter and twisted political activist rather than a hopeful, aspirational one, which is where it should be. And I guess from a personal point of view, I got tied into the party reasonably quickly. Had some incredibly close friends. My best man I met through the party, and ultimately met my wife through the party. So I'm not sure I could leave even if I wanted to be honest.
I love that. I love that. So after obviously you were lured in with a pint of beer and just being a very good friend, you ended up obviously rising through the ranks, reaching huge heights by serving as special advisor for former Prime Minister Theresa May. How did that come about? How did you become a former advisor for Downing Street and the Prime Minister?
So after getting involved in the party, at the same time, I was starting my career as a new graduate, working in communications and marketing. Initially started in higher education, trying to get obscure academic work onto the news and published, and helping them with research grants. But then my local MP was looking for someone to help him with his comms, and sort of jumped at the chance, applied for the job and got it, and was able to walk through the sort of stone floored halls of Westminster for the first time, and fell in love with the place. The smell, the atmosphere, the energy, it being the sort of the eye of the storm for so much that happens in our country. It was intoxicating, and I was able to work on bills and laws and legislation, and to work on campaigns and really heartfelt campaigns that affected thousands of people, and that was amazing. I helped Gavin Barwell, he was the MP for Croydon Central, as his assistant, and worked with him on his elections, got him re-elected, learnt about campaigning. But he then sadly lost his seat in the 2017 general election. And a few days later, he was asked to become the chief of staff at Number 10, which, as a consolation prize for losing your parliamentary seat, is not a bad one as it goes. And then towards the autumn of that year, you might recall Theresa May had her party conference speech where the letters fell off. The comedian ran up on the stage with a P45, and she had a little bit of a frog in her throat. Well, that conference speech ultimately was what got me the job. I was working for Heineken at the time, the beer company, a great job, and I was in Amsterdam, and I got a phone call the following day saying, Maria, the Prime Minister doesn't have anyone looking after her digital comms. Would you like to come and lead that for me? So I went and started a few weeks later as the first digital special advisor in 10 Downing Street, all thanks to that coughing speech.
Well, that's a good outcome for you, not the best for Teresa, but that's incredible. You were the first digital advisor at Downing Street, and something I bet there are loads now. I bet they have to have more than one now. I think that's the landscape has changed so much, so that's super interesting. And what was that like? Walking through the doors of Downing Street, or the pathway to Downing Street, that famous walk, knowing that you were going to be working there. How did that feel?
It's an incredible feeling, and like I said, from where I came from, state educated dad came over when he was 16, to in a few relatively short years to be working at the heart of government, serving the Prime Minister, was almost like a fairy tale. It's almost like sort of the American dream stereotype. But it happened in the UK, and it was possible because of hard work and being in the right place at the right time, and hopefully being talented enough to serve. And
Mm.
the door itself, walking through that, not just on the first day, but every day was incredible. It reminded you very clearly, as a symbol, if nothing else, that of where you're working is unbelievably important. And clearly, given recent events, I'm having lots of memories and flashbacks
I
of my
bet.
time when it was particularly unstable during Theresa's administration towards the end. But it's a phenomenal building with a lot of influence and power if it's wielded correctly. And yeah, fond memories, very, very fond memories.
Yes. So you oversaw digital comms for Theresa May's Downing Street. How has the landscape changed since then? Obviously, quite a bit. What would you advise her to do today? Should political leaders be joining Starmer and Farage on TikTok? Is the future of politics Zach Polanski style comms? Or would you say to Theresa, keep it old school, keep it classic? What would your approach to her be?
I think this is an incredibly important question, and whether it's for prime ministers or MPs or aspiring candidates, the key thing is always authenticity. Voters can smell a rat, voters can smell someone trying to hoodwink them incredibly quickly and very efficiently. So if I was thinking about sort of the all of the tools available to you, use the ones that you would use. And to be honest, in the case of Theresa, she didn't. So being able to get her onto Twitter and Instagram and other platforms was a bit of a battle. But there is a sort of a base level of social media that you need to engage in. But
Right.
the content that goes out has to be authentic. It has to be what
Mm.
you're passionate about. It has to be seen to be something that you actually would talk about on a daily basis.
Totally. I think that's 100% correct. That's great advice. So you mentioned briefly that you worked for Heineken. So you worked as a public affairs manager for them. Obviously, I'm sure you've got lots of thoughts on Rachel Reeves and the damage that her recent budget has done and had on hospitality. Thoughts on that firstly, but also as someone who has worked in public affairs, how easy is it to lobby and get through to government? Is it a case of, like the pubs do, moving en masse, or as the farmers did, just being utterly relentless? What would your advice be to those hospitality business whose rates won't be reduced like the pubs?
Well, so I've got a family connection to this. My family have worked in hospitality for many, many years. Particularly, my dad worked in catering and hospitality. So I've got a lot of personal anguish that is felt when I see the pubs and the cafes and the restaurants that are closing, the people that are suffering. You see and hear people all the time from the hospitality sector sort of struggling and crying to make ends meet. I mean, I met a restaurateur just before Christmas who told me that from sort of Monday to Friday, he works for Rachel Reeves. And any money he makes on the weekend is spent on supplies and paying bills and looking after his staff. So there are very, very little mechanisms to make decent profit in hospitality. And I think when you're thinking about how you want to inspire growth, how you want to encourage it, how you want to ensure that it actually starts to thrive in the country, to create jobs and to create prosperity and to help lift us out of our economic and cost of living funk. The only way you can do that is by empowering business, is by empowering the job creators by, where possible, reducing taxes, not adding to their burden, and reducing the costs experienced by them, not increasing them. And so when Rachel Reeves increases employers' national insurance and then a few months later is surprised by unemployment skyrocketing, she needs to, and the Labour government in general, need to realise that there is a direct correlation with their big state, big tax policies and jobs on the ground and misery that is being felt by tens of thousands of people up and down the country. And so when you ask the question about how would farmers and how would anyone really want to seek to influence the government, I think it starts from a position of always coming with a solution. So complaining and protesting is all very well and good in the immediate aftermath of a of a shocking policy decision. But in an ideal world, you anticipate it before, you come up with the evidence to demonstrate that it's going to be terrible, and then you come up with an alternative so that the politicians that you're speaking to aren't just being shouted at, as satisfying as that may be for many sectors at the moment, but you're saying to them that I understand the political position that you're in. You are trying to do X. The consequence of that is Y. And if you do that, we are going to be in real difficulty. And the politics of that is going to be terrible for you. And so coming up with a solution, giving them a way out, giving them an alternative that they might not have considered is going to be incredibly important. And I think the fundamental reality that we need to contend with is that politicians are people, civil servants are people. They are looking at spreadsheets and data and numbers and polling just like the rest of us, and they will make mistakes. They will not be fallible. And so just because the Treasury comes up with an estimate or a plan does not mean it is the correct one for a given sector. They're operating in the same parameters that the rest of us are. And so it's up to us to provide a compelling alternative framed within a narrative that they can understand, to then ultimately, hopefully, help to move the government away from a potentially incredibly damaging policy position.
Yeah, I think that's really, really good advice, and I would hire you immediately. No, I do think that's good advice. I think you're right. They're looking for an excuse as to how they can U-turn in a way that's not going to be utterly embarrassing. So they've got to have some path to go down. I think the problem that frustrates a lot of these lobby groups or just businesses in general is the fact that when these things are being leaked, and kind of the kites are being flown, they're saying these things are going to cause this damage. They're not being listened to at that point. So it's like, why do we have to go through the pain
Yeah.
for you to then go back anyway? If you just listen to us when you kind of leak this to hear our opinion, which we're now telling you, if you'd actually just done that, then we wouldn't be in this mess.
Yeah, well, I think you're seeing that at the moment, right? And I think I've lost track. Is it 14 U-turns at the
Yeah, I think
moment that the
14.
Prime Minister is
It's
currently on?
contested.
I
Some
mean,
say
it is.
15.
I mean, it will go up. It certainly will go up. And I think, working as a special advisor, it taught me that, slogans don't change lives, that decisions do. And government is at its best when it's calm, it's competent, and it's focused on delivery. And at the moment, the government is, in fact, I don't think at any point in the last 18 months has the government been focused on that. It's been
Yeah.
focused on politics. It's not been focused on their responsibility. And because they're losing grip of that, because they're losing grip of their responsibility and the impact it has on people, they're losing the trust of the public. And that fundamentally is the job. The job is to keep the trust of the public, earn it and keep it, and then ensure that you're delivering change that actually improves their lives. And the current government is not doing that. And I think they've gone so far down the path of chaos, as you've, perfectly outlined, that there is almost no way back for them. Even if they
Yeah.
change leaders, they will be forever tarnished by, we gave you a chance. We gave you a chance. You asked to be a government inspired and to put in to instigate change. And this is the chaos we get.
Yeah.
Not again, please. No, thank
Yeah,
you.
exactly. Never again. So, changing tack slightly, you are a mentor at the Social Mobility Foundation. What inspired you to take part?
The Social Mobility Foundation are truly phenomenal. I mean, the work that I do is only a small part of the excellent projects and campaigns that they run. But fundamentally, at the core, is the idea that if you are bright, if you are hardworking, but you come from a traditionally disadvantaged background, then that should not hold you back from achieving your ambitions and achieving your goals. And so I am part of a network of mentors who support young people who are at the start of or doing their A levels, who do not have friends or family or relatives that have been to university. And my role is to help a particular mentee every year or a mentee or two to get through the A level process, to advise them on UCAS statements, to advise them on which universities to apply for, to think about the courses they're working on, and anything else that comes up. I've helped with revision timetables. I've helped with exercising and how to decompress after a particularly difficult period. And and it is unbelievably fulfilling. It's a way that because I was in their boat, go back a decade or two now, and I was similarly like them without any contacts, without any relatives that had been to university, and embarking on this world on my own, and I didn't have much support. Not because my parents didn't want to, but because they couldn't. They didn't have
Yeah.
the lived experience. So I've done it for the last 5 or 6 years, and I hope I'll be able to continue it long into the future.
Amazing, love that. You just gave me a flashback on revision timetables. I saw one. Oh, God. No, I think that's really important. I think Conservatives are very good at making that positive case for social mobility.
Yeah.
And this government, I would say, has made kind of class warfare the one thing it seems that they stand for. And why is it important that we differentiate social mobility as offering opportunity rather than exacerbating social difference and reigniting a class war that hasn't existed for decades? And what are your thoughts on Bridget Phillipson's, assault on education? Obviously, you mentioned you went to a state school. She seems to hate academies, any independent schools, any independent school of thought. What are your thoughts on that?
So for me, aspiration is a moral crusade. It is something that should run through the core of every single conservative, every single statement, speech, event, policy. It has to be about aspiration, because fundamentally, aspiration is a promise. It is a mission. It is an end goal. It is saying to the public that if we are all hopeful, if we all lift our ambitions, if we look to the future thinking that it can be better, then the next logical question is, well, how can we make it better? What is our role in making it better? And that's where personal responsibility and freedom comes in, which are core inherent conservative values. And so if we are able to look at our society and to think we can be better than this, we must be better than this. The way we are better than this is by giving people freedom and responsibility and holding them to account for that freedom and responsibility and the consequences of their choices, then that enables the country, I think, to get stronger and better and healthier and happier, and ultimately leads to greater economic and social outcomes. And I think that aspiration, that hopeful path that Conservatives can offer, is the route to that. So when I then see Bridget Phillipson and Labour attacking the foundational pillars of parental choice and freedom and the academy programme, rolling it back, attacking the independent school sector. So I did not go to independent school. I often think what would have happened if I had gone to the independent school. I believe that parents have the ultimate say and should have the ultimate control over the future and direction of their children's lives. It is their responsibility to, if you're bringing a life into the world, to turn it into the best possible life that you can. And if a parent decides they want to send their child to an independent school, to a grammar school, to the state system, whatever that choice is, the government should empower it, support it, and ideally get out of the way where required. And so when you look at the VAT increase on independent schools and you see tens of thousands of students moving now as a result of that policy decision from the independent sector into the state system, when you see that there are dozens, I've lost track, I think we're now 30 or so, historic independent schools that are having to close because they are now financially unviable, that is a tragedy. It's a tragedy for our heritage, it's a tragedy for our education system, and it's a tragedy for aspiration and social mobility. Because the people that are leaving the independent system, they're not the Eatons and Harrows, they're not the ones that are able to afford the inflated fees. They're the people that are unable to afford, that are cutting corners to make ends meet to get their child into the independent sector. So not only is it those that are just about able to get their child into the independent system that are now leaving it, so you're punishing the directly aspirational cohort of people that you're trying to encourage, but they're also then in going into the state system, which increases the dependence of resource using taxpayer-funded schooling. It increases pressure on state teachers. It increases pressure on local authorities supporting the application process. It actually is a policy that ultimately costs more money than it raises for Bridget Phillipson. So it is as you said, it is a direct attack on social mobility and aspiration. It is completely unnecessary, and I don't believe that it is something that is good for our country in the short, medium, or long term.
Absolutely. And I find it so frustrating the way she just shrugs it off when they say, oh, this really small local independent school that's been here for 400 years is closing. She's like, well, everyone should go to state school, or also private schools close all the time. And it's just, I don't know, there's no regard for our history, our heritage, and also brand Britain. These are things that people abroad look at us for as being, the best at. They think we are
Soft
fantastic. Our
power, yeah.
education, exactly, our soft power. We are so great when it comes to education. And we're seeing so many schools now opening in Dubai and wherever else everyone else is fleeing to, which is great for them, but we're losing a lot of our great teachers as well. So yeah, it's just all pretty bleak, and I get quite frustrated with Bridget Phillipson. But it seems to be her mission to just crush the entire education sector and our legacy, which I think is one of the really good things that the Conservatives are very, very strong on. So continuing on with education, you were the first in your family, as you mentioned, to go to university. How did that feel? Obviously, it probably felt great. And what are your thoughts on that route now? Would you still recommend it for your kids, or do you think that pathway to success has now shifted with obviously everything we hear with universities getting a job, loans, etc.?
So what it felt like going to university was terrifying. It was great eventually, but on the face of it, I found it incredibly daunting. I mean, initially, my parents were not supportive. They didn't see the value in it. They were worried about the accumulation of debt. And given that they'd never been to university, my I remember several heated conversations with my dad where he was saying, "Well, look, why do that? I know someone whose kid graduated in anthropology and now they're working in the shop next to me. Why don't you come out and spend a few years working and you'll be a manager, you could be a senior manager, you could be earning lots of money if you don't go to university." And there was some wisdom in that. But for me, it was about spreading my wings. It was about being able to develop my intellectual ability, being able to explore subjects I loved, and the social side of it, being able to meet people that I would otherwise have never been exposed to. And so walking through the campus gates for the first time was daunting, but within a few hours, I fell in love with it. The atmosphere, the encouragement, the supportive tutors, the friends all battling and struggling with the same social and intellectual and professional concerns was life-changing for me. But it's not for everyone, and I think that's where we've really got to focus on the branding, the publicizing of the different routes that are available to young people. My brother is a brickie. He works in construction, and
Oh,
that
wow.
suits him. He's an incredibly hardworking, loyal person, and he's built a phenomenal career in construction in his sector. And he's now helping other more younger people working construction to get their qualifications. But that worked for him. That sort of technical, that vocational training worked for him, just like academia worked for me. And I think we need to be more, prouder of the people that are working in apprenticeships, in vocational courses, in alternative tertiary education, and encourage people to do things that suit them and suit their ultimate life ambitions. I mean, we were very proud that we had Gillian Keegan as our first education secretary that had been an apprentice, right? So we're demonstrating social mobility in practice in the party.
Absolutely.
But I think as a country, when it comes to careers guidance, sixth form education, secondary schools, we need to be talking about the wide variety of options available and not just focusing on a narrow path that some of us may have thought was better for us at the time.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And I'm going to ask you some very, deep, profound things about why you're a conservative, etc. But also, you are a Croydon councillor, and you have been for a long time. I think you might be stepping down, which is very sad.
Yes, yeah, I've been 12 years I've been a counsellor. So I thought,
That's a
yeah,
solid innings, I
yeah,
think. I
I
think
think
you've done
so.
well.
I think so.
So you are now you are probably the most qualified person to answer this question now, Marius. So some people in Croydon say that they are Londoners, and some say that they are from Surrey. Is Croydon in Surrey or in London? You decide.
It is both.
There we go. There we go.
So
It is
Croydon
both.
has been a London. Croydon has been a London borough since 1965. It is well within the M25, and it is 15 minutes, depending on the station, to Victoria, London Bridge, and therefore an incredibly good place to invest and
There we
settle
go.
family roots down in.
So you've mentioned why you're a conservative. What do you love about being a member of the Conservative Party?
So I think the Conservative Party offers so much potential for self-development. And I think it is quite right for a party of self-starters, of that back entrepreneurs, that back people that have vision and drive and aspiration, who want what's best for their family, for those that are active to be encouraged to go as far as they want in the party. So I started knocking on doors and delivering leaflets, and then I became a person running a polling district, and then I got involved in a ward branch, and then I became an association officer and an area officer, and now I'm the southeast of England regional deputy chairman, covering 91 constituencies. And so but that is all self-inflicted. I decided I wanted to do it. I decided I wanted to run to be a councillor. I ran in 2010 and lost. And then I ran in 2014 and won. And as you say, have been a councillor for 12 very eventful years. So the great thing about the Conservative Party is that it enables you to develop and grow and to sort of absorb the wisdom from generations of activists and officers and people involved in the party at all different levels. And if you want to, you can get to region, you can get to sit on the party board and become a national volunteer, helping to steer the future direction, strategy, finances, membership of the party. Or you can use that experience to become a councillor, a GLA member, a county councillor, or even a member of parliament. So I think it's a wonderful party that allows you to do all of those things. But you have to be a self-starter. You have to actively seek and want to pursue those opportunities. And I guess I am, because I did.
Indeed, you are. And finally, what does the future of the Conservative Party look like to you? Where do you think we need to be in 3 years, or like it's counting down? It might be 1 year. And what gives you hope?
So I'm a very optimistic person by nature. I see the incredible work that Kemi and the wider team are doing to restore the party, to ensure that we look like the adults in the room, and when we do that, we win. I think the British public are instinctively conservative, and they need to trust us again. But we're doing that. We're rebuilding the trust by showing competence, serious service. We're not a one-man band.
Yeah.
We are working together, and we are a diverse, broad church with lots of incredible, experienced people that are in our shadow cabinet and across the country. I don't think we can afford to be distracted by personality politics, and I think Kemi's leadership signals maturity, that we're in touch with the public, their concerns. She's landing consistent blows on no backbone Starmer, and she's
Not
ensuring that we are constantly talking about the things that matter.
mm,
The U-turns that Keir Starmer has undertaken have not been at his choosing. They have been under
yes.
direct pressure and influence by Kemi and the Conservatives. And I think if we are able to craft, like I said earlier, ultimately a
Better.
hopeful, aspirational prospectus for the public, showing not just where things have gone wrong now under Labour, but that we've learnt our lessons, that the party has changed under her leadership, dramatically changed,
Mm.
and that we're offering a path, a vision to a hopeful, aspirational future, then I think the sky's the limit for the Conservatives. I really, really do.
Well, Mario, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.